Hey guys, tonight our old friend Maren Muter stops by to update us on her life in a haunted castle and other ghostly things. See you in about 5 minutes. Grab your popcorn and snacks. Find a comfy spot, take a seat or lie down, and let me transport you to a place of fantasy, ghost stories, ancient legends, odd creatures, alien encounters, and other magical topics. You may even decide to join the conversation. From faraway lands to your own backyard, with a small dash of pixie dust. Turn out the lights and open your minds. The journey is about to begin. Good evening, everybody. How's everyone doing today? It's Thursday, the day before Friday. That's something that says something there, right? We're one day closer to that weekend. Welcome, welcome, welcome. My name is Charlotte, and I'm going to be your host for the next hour. I'm also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team, based out of Sacramento, California. We are 45 strong up and down the state of California. And what that means is that if you have any paranormal help, if you need any paranormal help, we can get to you. I have people living in almost every county, even though there's a lot of counties. And if we're not in a county near you, if we're 3 or 4 counties away, we can still get to you. So if you have any help that you need, shoot me a note on Facebook. You can find California Haunts on Facebook. You can find us over at Twitter under Cal Haunts. You can find us over at TikTok under California Haunts, all lowercase. And you can find me on Facebook as well. Okay, so we're really easy to find. And I'm also Ghosty Gal on Instagram. Anyhow, if you're watching, speaking of which, if you're watching from, let me turn this down a little bit. If you're watching from Facebook and you like what you see tonight, please feel free to like and follow, because we are looking for followers. Always looking for followers. If you're watching from YouTube and you like what you see tonight, please feel free to subscribe. And there's a little ghost. I think I'm going to try to do this. I do this every show and I always mess it up. So, because the camera's facing, okay, I'm going to do it this side. Okay, see what I mean? Anyway, the bottom right-hand corner, there's a little ghost with a Sherlock Holmes hat on and a magnifying glass. And that little ghost will subscribe you to our videos. And we have about, or more than rather, 450 videos sitting over there on YouTube that are different types. It's not all paranormal stuff. There's all kinds of other topics as well. Because I'm a journalist, that's what we do, is I like to kind of mix it up. So we're not only covering ghosty stuff, we cover things. Like Tuesday, for instance, my guest is going to be talking about homeopathic stuff that you can take for your health. Things like that. So anyway, check us out over on YouTube, and I think there's a little something over there for everybody. Tonight, we bring our old friend Maren Muter back. Last time she was on, we had a grand old conversation, and I'm looking forward to tonight's conversation because she had moved. If I remember correctly, I'm getting old. It's all foggy after a while. If I remember correctly, Maren had moved into a haunted castle, and she was having events going around her there. So it's going to be interesting to get updates with her and see what's happening. So we're here. So it's going to be kind of like, we're just going to go with the flow on this interview and have a little fun. All right? So here we go. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you today?
Good. Good. Oh, you're in a much lighter room this time.
Yes. Welcome to the Haunted Library.
How is life in a haunted castle?
It's busy. It's very busy. There's plenty of stories to share tonight, a constant flow of activity here. And it's not something that I'm trying to get rid of because I really actually enjoy it. So the more the merrier, I say.
As long as the activity is good, who cares? You know what I mean?
That's right. And, if I get somebody that has decided that they're going to be a little temper tantrum, I can take care of that myself. So,
yeah. Absolutely. I remember those days back before the TV shows and everything when people would sit there, you go out and talk to people about the ghosts they have in their house, and they'd be like, well, no, I don't mind it. It's not bad. It's okay. It's cool to have it here. Instead of now the way things are, because all the TV shows make it out to be evil. So right away, I want it out. I don't care what it is, So it's nice to hear somebody that, enjoys their ghosts. Just like me, I have ghosts in here, and it's like, as long as they don't get out of line, I'm good.
There you go. Exactly. I mean, nobody wants a cranky ghost anyway, but for the most part, they're harmless. They're just hanging out. You're hanging out, and that's it. They like to play practical jokes a lot because that's how they get our attention. It's not that they're necessarily only jokesters, but they have to get our attention when they want our attention, and to us, it feels like they're playing tricks on us all the time.
Right.
Whether it's flickering the lights or spilling drinks or whatever it is, to them, it's like, oh, hey, that worked. And to us, it's like, oh, what are you doing?
But what is it like? I mean, I know what it's like here for me because I'm the only one in this house. So, I kind of like probably like you. I know my ghosts. I know who's who. I know where they hang out and particular stuff. But they do stuff to, like you say, to surprise you every once in a while.
Absolutely. I recently, because I've only been here for a year, so this is my first year cycle,
Hmm.
and I have actually noticed things that I didn't notice in the fall of last year. So like spiritual imprinting. And recently in the last like 2 or 3 weeks in the garden. So when you first walk out of the front door, there's this huge stone wall over to your left. And in the stone wall, there's cutouts so you can see through the stone wall. So it's like windows with no glass
That's cool.
into this big field area. And then there's like a ruins of an old amphitheater. And so a lot of, stuff happened down there, I'm sure. But I have just recently started seeing literally an apparition just patterning. So it's definitely a spiritual imprinting because I'm watching this not quite human, but humanoid
Hmm.
out of the purview of my attention, but really just very, if I had to guess, if I had to put an image to it, it would be someone cloaked in a long black cape and walking back and forth. And so I'm like, so definitely if I had to put a time frame on it, it's not the 19th century.
See, you take it so well. I mean, if I saw a cloaked individual walking through my house, I'd be, even as a ghost hunter, for as long as I've done it, I'd still be really leery and be like, "What the hell was that?" And call the first psychic I know and go, "Look, I need to know what this is. Do I need to get rid of it or what?"
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's interesting. And it's like I said, this is a new one. So at first it did catch me off guard. I was like, hey, who's that? Who's walking in my yard? And then then the pattern started showing up and I thought, this is what I've got now. And it really does show up as a pattern, just like a true imprint. It's at a certain time of the day.
Mhm.
And actually not every single day of the week, but I'm noticing it's on specific days of the week. And I'm like, okay, yep, that's what we've got there. So I'm waiting to see if he has any friends.
Do you think it's because you've allowed? Well, there's a portal there, obviously, somewhere on the property, and
Yeah,
because you've been so welcoming to them, now you're just going to be accumulating these things that come through.
possibly. Possibly. There's an old stone quarry on my property and the property itself obviously has a lot of history, not just English history, but Native American history, because it really, I mean, I'm up here in northern Vermont and, well, I guess northern, but it's not northern Vermont. I'm in the north in central Vermont. But there's a lot of history out here on the land. And sometimes, people associate hauntings attached to a house
Right.
rather than attached to the land. But the haunting can attach itself to the land and attach itself to the stonework and everything else. And, maybe not so much in trees if we've clear cut the trees or whatever, because, you've clear cut them and you removed the trees that were there all that time ago. But the stone and the rock, you're not clearing that.
Right.
And so all that stone was used to build this house. And all that history, if they imprinted or if there was a homestead there previously or whatever it was, is now the foundation of my house or the walls of my house.
Well, it's like the whole thing with the plumbing too, because they can only go down so far, and so you're getting unless there's something horribly wrong with your pipes, you're getting the old plumbing, and that's
Correct.
where a lot of bathrooms are active.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. And so if you live in a whole old house and you live in California, call Charlotte.
That's
If your pipes are backing up or they're playing music,
won't use your bathroom. That's all.
that's right.
I have the reputation for doing investigations in hotels, old hotels, and
Mm,
I'll avoid the bathroom to the last possible minute.
wow. What are
Because
some of the things that you found in the bathrooms or
every
people
time I go in
complain
the
about?
every time I go in the bathroom, there's a face in my face. There's always somebody bending over, going, "Hey, hey," and I'm just so I don't do bathrooms in hotels. It never
That's funny.
fails.
So what do
I
you
did.
do? Well, I mean, when you have that happen, how do you um how do you work? Like when you go into the bathroom and there's a face in your face, how are the things that you do
I
to
just tell
clear
them
it
to
out?
get out, finish my business, get the hell out. What are you gonna do when they're right there? Um, what I guess the story I have is the Empress Theater in Vallejo. We go in there, and I'm afraid of the dark. I always have been. Always saw things when I was a kid, so I have to have lights on. So I'm in this theater, late 1900s and all this. Knew about all the ghost stories, of course, because we were there for like the fourth time. Love that theater. And the team decides to go get dinner. The problem is the front door is not locked, so somebody has to stay behind. So I got stuck staying behind. So I'm walking around the lobby thinking about all the ghosts. It's dark like in the other rooms. And so I made myself paranoid. So I go in the bathroom. Here I go again, in the bathroom. Nobody told me that they had just redone everything and made it all like green in the bathroom to where the lights would come on automatically and all this would happen. So I sit down, lights pop on. You could hear the scream all the way down the corner. People were coming in off the street wondering if I was okay. I mean, it was just like, but that's how I am.
Oh my gosh.
I'm just a scared, and I'm not a scared ghost hunter. I don't like the dark, and just it bothers me since I was a kid. But
Yeah.
bathrooms are not good for me. Even my own house. I mean, I've had fingers go up my back in my own bathroom, and I know, when I get something like that, though, I know it's something I brought from somewhere else, because the ones that are in here would not do that to me.
No, because they know not to scare you.
Yeah, yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
agreement with them.
That I think that's something that some people don't quite understand is you can actually establish relationships with the spiritual entities in your house. And it doesn't mean that, you're talking in English with them. It's just this knowing and understanding each other and how to work around each other.
Mm-hmm.
So when you do have familiar ghosts, they're not going to try to scare the dickens out of you unless that is really truly their personality. But for the most part, they still won't, because they don't want you to excuse them,
Right,
because they want to coexist.
right. Just like I know. I mean, I've had people tell me I'm doing my show. My mother's here, my father's here, my brother's here. I got a whole gang around me because they're fascinated by the show itself. It doesn't bother me. I can feel them. I can feel them right now. But that's just how it is, and so I'm used to it. I'm used to their energy.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And
Your bathroom story reminds me of that Mickey Mouse Ghost Hunters.
Yes.
Sorry, that's just where my mind went, imagining your bathroom story.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, it is what it is. But I mean, like I said, I just don't do bathrooms.
Yeah.
I mean, but you can't avoid it. After a while, you have to go at some point. But you sit there and you hope, oh God, I hope nothing comes to talk to me. But I've heard clients tell me, that they're taking showers,
Mm-hmm.
and there's someone watching them while they're taking their shower. I call those the pervy ghosts.
Yeah.
They're
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
just fascinated watching people.
Oh, that would be a weird feeling.
It would be a weird feeling. I've never had that happen now. That's never
No.
happened. But it's
No.
creepy. It's creepy. It's creepy. It's creepy. So you had that remodeling done. You were having issues in the beginning of that with whatever was in the house. How did that go? I mean, how active did they get?
Yeah. So in the beginning of the remodel, when we very first started, really nothing had happened yet. We were here, and my mom and I were staying in the house, and I had a broken leg. So we were getting ready to go visit the doctor to check up on that. And the contractor was here and by himself, and there's nobody else up here. But we had two disembodied voices in the lower portion of the house, and he thought it was my mom and I in the lower portion of the house. And so he was calling down to us, trying to figure out, why haven't they left? And he went down to go look for us and didn't find anything. And then it happened again, and it just, all the hairs on the back of his neck stood up, and he was just like, no, I'm not dealing with this. So that was the main thing. And some of the other workers, their tools would be changed, or they'd be misplaced, and things like that. But one of the big things that happened was in the middle of the remodel, and I think this just happened last time when you and I spoke, but I went down into the kitchen because I heard something in the kitchen, and it was a big break, and I was like, what the heck, what could have broken? And I make chocolate, so I had all these packages of chocolate getting ready to ship out, and none of them were on the edge of the counter, nothing like that. And I go down there, and there's chocolate all over the floor, there's a broken tea set, and I'm like, what the heck? And then and it's all dark, so
Right.
I don't have any lights on in the house because I didn't need it to get to the kitchen. But down this one, it's like a dining hall in this house. So it's this hallway, and there's this huge long table, and the contractor was using this table, and he put his chop saw on it and things like this. And all of a sudden, as I'm bending down to pick some of this chocolate up out of the kitchen, down this dark hallway, the chop saw turns on.
Whoa.
And I'm like, I actually caught it on film on my phone, because I was walking through going, okay, there's something happening here. And when I walked down there to the kitchen, I wanted to film what was going on. And so my phone actually caught the chop saw turning on. And then after that, I'm in bed and I ended up bear spraying myself. But so I'm in bed, and it may have been 2:00 in the morning, and all of a sudden I'm hearing feet in the stairs. Now, normally when you have a spiritual imprinting, the tread of the feet is a little bit lighter, or it's just more mechanical sounding rather than, having the weight of the person and the alternating. Like if you walk on a step, sometimes it creaks one way, sometimes it doesn't the other way, but spiritual imprinting hits the same creak all the time. But this particular one hit all the wrong creaks, and my dog goes crazy, and I'm like, oh my God, somebody's actually in the house. This is real. Somebody's actually in the house. And so my dog gets off my bed, and she's going out the door, and her hair is all standing up. And then like 30 seconds later, she turns around with a tailspin and runs back into my room, scared to death. I'm sitting up. I'm like, oh my God, I got my bear spray. And I bear spray right as she enters. So now I have bear spray all over my room. I do not recommend this to anyone, because you literally cannot breathe with bear spray. If you think mace is bad, bear spray is horrible. I mean, we're like foaming at the mouth. We can't breathe. I couldn't go into my bedroom for a month as I was cleaning it, like trying to clean that. But then it happened again. All the doors opened up in the downstairs. So there's 4 or 5 floors to the castle area. And I don't sleep on the top floor. I sleep on the second one. And so all the doors down into all the way to the basement opened. And I was like, oh my gosh, again, somebody's here. This time I called the police. It takes them forever to get here, so it doesn't even matter. But again, the doors are opening and shutting, and there's activity. It sounds like there's people walking. I have a hidden stairwell, with a dumbwaiter, and all of this is going on this particular night. And I'm thinking, what the heck? And so I had to calm everybody down. I had to say, okay, we can't do this in the middle of the night, please, anymore. I've got to get sleep. And I understand that, you're exploring or whatever it is, but we're not opening the doors to the outside anymore, because I don't want bears to really come in. I don't need bobcats. I don't need whatever else coming in. But that was an interesting night. So those are the kind of things that are happening. This particular month is October. I'm like trying not to cry, but I actually lost my son in the end of October, not last year, but a couple years ago. And before he passed away, we all made a deal with each other that if any of us pass away, we're going to definitely haunt each other. And he has been so true to his word, which is absolutely wonderful. And so to mark off October, he loves electronics and he loves fire alarms. And so he started playing music between the different fire alarms on different levels. And we had people in the house who were like, what is going on? I said, it's only going to last 3 minutes. We'll be fine. Because 3 is his number. And so every little bit of music that came during that 3-minute stint was in consecutive threes. And so that was kind of him signaling to me, hi, Mom. So that's the most recent one.
Isn't that cool when that happens, though? It's a great feeling to know that they're still there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That the consciousness continues. I mean, it's just the death of the human body. And, we continue on. We have our memories. We have our ability to think, to reason, to, use our consciousness, and we can use our consciousness to communicate with the people that are still living on Earth.
I know my friend Monica died a year ago in February, and she would always come visit in the summer, and she would always buy me a certain pizza, frozen pizza. And so, about a week after she passed, I came across, I don't know how I got a free pizza, but somehow I got a free pizza from somewhere, and it happened to be the same type of pizza. And so I knew it, and I thought, wow, that's really cool,
Yeah.
It just amazes me. Like, even here, I know my mother's here, my father's here, my dogs. Oh my God, my deceased animals are all here. So it's really a cool feeling because I'm never alone.
Yeah.
I know they're watching.
Yeah.
When you call the police out, did they tell? I mean, obviously stuff's been going on there, or it just happened because obviously you have ability, so maybe you drew it out when you moved in there. But I mean, I just wonder if there's a record of them being called out to the house for stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is that nobody has actually lived here full time ever. So before I took it over, parts of it were being used as a bed and breakfast, or not a bed and breakfast, just like a stay, because there's a ski mountain nearby.
Okay.
And before then, I mean, the owners didn't even live in the state. So, but the town that I live in is haunted. And so they have ghost tours all the time. And there are not a lack of information and stories to tell for the town that I live in. It is very haunted and has a long, long history of that. So it probably wasn't surprising and unusual. It was probably just, I don't know if they've been called up to the house before, but definitely have been called other places, I'm sure.
So when you went to purchase this house, or you went to look at it initially, did the house call out to you?
Good question. I actually bought the house sight unseen. Okay. So I guess there was some sort of connection there, of begrudgingly being connected. It was just kind of like, it was interesting because I was in Colorado and I saw an ad for this house, and I was like, oh, and I would kind of click on it, and I was kind of curious. And for some reason, it was just like, you kind of have this knowing, deep-seated knowing you're going to be there. But I mentally, I was like, nope. But I had like your intuition is like, yep. And so it went on for a couple months, and I was like, fine, here I am.
Absolutely. Now, having the abilities that you have you been able to track down where the opening is in the house?
Really, I think it's down by the quarry, and it's definitely kind of over where the amphitheater, the ruins of the amphitheater. It's not necessarily in the house, but spirits they're not locked into location, so they're going to be drawn and attracted to living energy, because we have active polarization of the houses happening. We have positive, negative, or electromagnetic organisms, and we have electrical impulses that we're sending out, and like any good magnet, we're going to draw energy to us. And so with this active energy, rather than just being right out there, they're going to come in here and join me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Have you further communication with them at all, or are you just letting it go as it is? Like, okay, I know you're there. I'm cool.
Yeah, I mean, for me, when there's a haunting, it's not necessarily the person themselves that was here, because it is part of something much bigger now. And so when I communicate with ghosts or other entities, it's not necessarily in English. It's more through energy, through forms of energy. And then you just kind of get this symbiotic understanding and knowing. And then if my brain needs to translate that information or that knowing into something that's recognizable for me here and translate it into words, then I can do that. But I'm normally such a quiet person anyway. I barely speak English myself. And so most of my life is quiet anyway.
So you have all these floors in your house, all these rooms. Have you really checked out every one? I mean, if ever, this is how I am. I mean, that would freak me out to have to know that there's all those empty rooms up there. I mean, I'd be peering around corners and stuff.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that when I did the remodel, I actually got an old barn that's probably like 250 years old, and put that barn wood all over inside the house as well. So whatever was attached to that is here. Um, yep, I've gone to every single room, and I've just kind of seen what's around. I don't have any specific rooms that have a specific haunting. It's kind of like free flow haunting around here. Everybody's just wherever they're going to go. So you might go into an area of the house, and one day you totally feel the energy, it's a little bit thicker when you have a haunting in there. And then the next day you go down there, it's not there, but it's over there.
Mm-hmm.
So they definitely just kind of wander around. I think it was interesting, during the remodel, there was one night where it was my mom had returned. She went away for a little bit, and then had come back, and we're in bed, and then all of a sudden we hear the voices. So probably the disembodied voices that the contractor heard. And you can't really make out the words, but their voices were clear. And it was almost like they were walking through the house going, oh, I wonder why she did that. Oh, look at that. They're like examining the changes that were being made and giving their opinions on it. So that was kind of funny. But I remember going, asked my mom, I was like, are you talking to me? And she says, no, I thought you were talking to me. And it was them.
So you said you got animals. Are you able to track them, to track the ghosts a little bit more because the animals are there? Does the dog tend to follow them around, or does the dog kind of leave them alone?
Absolutely. I don't know if it attracts them more, but animals see different things because they see at a different frequency than we do. And it's similar to young children. Even though young children see at our frequency, their brain hasn't filtered out what they're supposed to see and what they're not supposed to see, where a dog actually sees different frequencies. And so when the ghosts come in, like the other night, it was a big hullabaloo because the dog loves to play with the ghosts, and will bend down and start barking and run around the room like a chicken with his head cut off. And then sometimes the ghost will actually throw some of the toys towards the dog or pull it away from the dog. Never a tug of war, but I do have things that are being thrown, like if they're lightweight toys.
Mm-hmm. I know. There's a ghost that sits behind my couch, in one of the recliners because the dog. I know I have a 3-year-old Kelpie, and she will jump up on my couch, and she'll look over the back.
Mm-hmm.
Really fascinated by something back there wag her tail. So I know it must be my mother or somebody sitting back there. And I also remember when my mother was really active after she first passed away, she had a certain spot on her couch that she would sit, And so her dog was like overweight, so it was like 50 pounds. But she taught it to jump up on her all the time, when she was alive. So I was watching that that poor dog would jump up on her, and then I would see the dog fall on the ground like she was shoved down,
Oh,
just like my mother would normally do. So I was watching stuff like that go on. So
yeah,
yeah, I agree with you. They do see. There's no question about that. But it'd be
absolutely.
interesting to watch something through twice for him. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I think it's pretty cool. But I also love it when they're just sitting there and they are just watching. I mean, it's just like they're watching television.
Watching TV with you.
You're like, what are you doing? And then, you end up watching them rather
Yeah.
than doing your work because it's really entertaining and really interesting to see an animal react to something that you can't see and
Yes.
how they're actually interacting with them, not just watching, but they're literally interacting with them.
Absolutely. When you talk about watching television, that reminds me, you're sitting on your couch and you got all your dead relatives around you, or whoever it is. I remember, I think it was I don't know, yeah, it's American Idol, well, one of those programs like that. And because my family's Mexican, and there was this younger Mexican gentleman that was performing. And I guess one of my relatives liked him because every time the guy would sing, the lights would blink
Yep.
in the house. And I'd be like, okay, you like that one, huh? Blink, blink, blink. So I mean, it's stuff like that goes on that keeps you going. At least But like I said, it's more comforting to know who they are, and that they're not going to do anything to you or bother you. That makes it nice.
I think so too. And I love the signals through the lights because you really can communicate with them that way because they do answer and they will. Sometimes not immediately after, sometimes it takes a minute or two, but they will answer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know that's how my dad. That's his favorite way to communicate with me is the
Mhm.
light that's up above where he used to sit in the kitchen. I can always
Yep.
tell it's him.
Yep.
You know.
Yeah. I was talking to a woman the other day and she, she had lost her son. And we were having this conversation and then we started talking about certain things and things that he was wanting her to know.
Hmm.
And when we started recognizing that, the lights like above me started blinking so she could actually see the blinking as well, which was really cool. That was really special. So
That
yes,
is
I love the lights.
that is really cool. So you got your remodeling done.
Hmm.
Did the activity slow down or did it increase afterwards?
It hasn't slowed down. I don't know if it's increased. Maybe I guess a little bit now that I have this guy walking in up and down the yard and the garden. So that was a new one. That's just recently. So I guess maybe I am getting more. I don't know. Unless he's
It's
like pretending to be Ichabod Crane.
you never know about that, especially with the holiday coming up. Do you notice that? I mean, because they always say around the holidays like this that more deceased family members will come around because they just come for the normal holidays. Have you noticed any increases? I mean, as far as like your own family, because you can sense who's who, and as far as your own deceased family members coming around, because that would add to the whole melee in
Yeah.
the house.
Exactly. I haven't noticed that necessarily, but I do know that, once we hit winter time, once the earth starts quieting down, we
Hmm.
usually see and recognize more hauntings on average. And that's because we are actually paying attention more. When springtime hits, when summertime hits, we're so preoccupied with being outside or doing what we're going to do and that kind of stuff that we aren't actually settled in. And a lot of people, you talk to them and their hauntings happen at night or they're getting their visitation dreams at night because you're settled down and your brain has settled down. And then it's easier for you to actually just recognize these communications that are there all the time. It's just that we're not paying attention to them. So when winter time hits, especially, October, November, December, January, the earth is settling down, we're settling down, the days are starting to get longer and our brain is starting to relax a little bit, and so we're picking up on the visitations more and recognizing them more, so we can actually end up training our family also to come back at these times because that's when we are more apt to recognize their presence. And so they might go, well, yeah, I'm not going to come back in the springtime right now. I'll let her do what she's going to do. But then the holidays hit, and people are looking for messages. They're more receptive to messages. And so sometimes that's when we're getting more.
The other thing I thought too was during COVID, that the lockdowns, I had heard a lot of reports of people that had activity in their homes. But I think, like with you, everything slowed down. It came to a screeching halt. People were home more, so
That's
there's
right.
the activity is always there, but you're not looking. You're not looking at it because, like you say, you're so busy.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. And when everything shut down for COVID, it it was a bittersweet time because of everything that was going on. But being able to feel that shutdown and actually feel all of that normal energy, that normal hum of energy that was around us all the time, stop. And you could go outside and it was quiet, and you could go outside and there wasn't the sound of the airplanes going over, and there wasn't the sound of the cars. And I think that more people connected and felt the connection to the other side of the veil, and felt the connection to the earth around them and their environment around them more than any other time. And it was such a unique period that I don't think in our lifetime we're going to see that again. And it's just an experience to grab onto there for a little bit.
Well, it is, and when you think about it, with all the traffic and everything that stopped, and all the waters that cleared up,
Oh,
all the natural
yeah.
stuff that went natural again. I mean, somebody had to have taken notice of that and thought, wow, I mean, this is how it could be as opposed to how it is. You
Mm-hmm.
know? And I remember even going outside. I agree with you. It was a weird, it was strange. At first, it was a strange vibe because you get out there and there's like nothing going on.
Yeah.
And there's just silence. You don't hear the chainsaws or the people working on houses. I mean, it was just pure silence, just like living out in the country.
Yeah.
You
It was
know,
amazing.
it
Yeah.
was amazing. Crickets and all.
That's right. Crickets and all.
Crickets and
And
all.
ghosts.
Yeah, living in the country. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Did you have more calls during that time? I mean,
Yes.
did people
Yeah.
ask you?
It went up. And it was. I know it's because people were just stuck at home. And
Yeah,
that's
they're like,
that's all they could do.
wait a
That's not.
minute.
Yeah, you're stuck at home. You're finally realizing, hey, that moved. It shouldn't have moved. So how many acres are you on?
240.
Wow, you are cut off.
I am cut off. Yes. So eventually one day this will become a bed and breakfast again, and people can come out and have the haunted experience, which hopefully will be sooner than later. There's still certain things that I need to work on. I'm still working on heating and things like that. But the major construction is done. I just need to do some fine tuning now. So people don't come out and freeze to.
I was going to say, what's the snow like?
The snow is nice. I mean, it's big snow. It's big snow. Not quite like going up to Mount Rainier snow, but um, we'll get 18 inches in 2 days, and you're snowed in. And the snow is also, I mean, think about the silence of COVID. You go outside in a snowstorm, and it is so quiet.
Snow, yeah.
It is so quiet because it's like insulation quiet, where you don't even know if you're actually alive because it's so quiet. Uh, and so that was an experience. I remember having those experiences as a kid, but you don't really remember what it was like. And
Hmm.
then last winter when I went out, I was like, oh my gosh, it really is like when you talk about silence in the snow, it's amazing. So
Well, that's why you hear stories of people going to sleep at night and they wake up and they're snowed in, and people go, well, why didn't you hear stuff?
yeah,
What was happening? Snow doesn't do that. It just kind of accumulates like cotton. It just goes.
it just goes. Yeah, there's no way. You don't even know it's snowing. You're just like, wow, this is a really great sleep.
Yeah. And you wake up in the morning. Well, I
You're
can't get
like,
out of my
wait
bed.
a minute. Yeah, I think the good thing that I've noticed is if it snows a lot, and if you get snowed in, if you have food in your kitchen, you're fine. um, because it will melt, and it goes away within a day or so, and it gives you time to shovel it out and whatever. But
I
no,
think of your house. I
it
think of you
wasn't that bad yet.
like one of those Hallmark movies.
Yeah.
People that buy the old inn, and it was the Auntie's Inn or whatever it was. They're looking to buy it. And they're stuck out in the middle of nowhere, and they're trying to, nothing's working in there. The power's out and snows and.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was like last year because we really didn't have much heat. So I would use this little burner that's in here, this wood burning stove. But the second you would leave this room, it's like 17 degrees in the house. Your breath is freezing. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. And you get down finally to the kitchen. You're like, you're so cold. You're shaking. You're like, oh, trying to light the gas stove to
Quick,
cook
turn
some
the burner
food.
on.
Oh my gosh, it was so freaking cold. That was an experience too. I don't think I've ever been so cold. Like when people talk about it's bone chilling cold, it
Yeah.
was bone chilling cold. Like the center, the marrow was freezing.
Where did you live before this? Was it the West Coast?
It was West Coast. I'm a West Coast girl. I grew up in Oregon. I lived in Big Sur, California. So this is all brand new for me.
I mean, you were by the ocean. It was cold, but not like this.
Yeah. It was not like this. No. I also lived in Washington State, where it did get cold, where it did snow.
Mm-hmm.
But even then, it wasn't this cold. It wasn't. I think the West Coast is drier. We don't have the humidity that's over here. And
Right.
even though it supposedly gets dry over here in the wintertime, there's still like this humidity factor that just makes you freeze. I mean, it is so freaking cold. Yeah.
Well, I
Yeah.
can imagine.
My next move will probably be back to the West Coast. And if you're from the East Coast and you're watching this, I really do love it. The autumn is beautiful. I'm just happen to be a West Coast girl.
And then obviously, because of all the room and stuff, there's not carpeting like all over the place, right? So it's a lot of wood flooring. So you're dealing with the cold even more. Because I know when I took the carpeting, even here, Sacramento, I took the carpeting out of my living room in my house. I froze my butt off
Yeah.
because you don't realize what carpeting does for you.
Yeah. I did put carpeting in all the bedrooms because I was like, no, I don't want to be cruel to people.
That's funny. That's funny. So the thing outside the amphitheater, I mean, is it still intact or is it just in ruins that you were able to tell it was an amphitheater?
No, part of it is still intact. So,
Okay.
yeah, I've gone out there and I've tried to sing. I'm not a very good singer, but nobody's here to listen to it unless my ghost friends are sitting in the audience. So I'll go out there. Oh,
The ghost friends probably don't care.
no, they're like, they're like, all right, we got a jamboree going.
Well, yeah, and then if they're coming from different dimensions and stuff, it probably sounds good to them because it's all it's
Yeah.
all muffled anyway, kind of like the EVPs we get. They're kind of muffled anyway, so who cares?
Yep, that's right.
Did you do any research on the history of the house at all? Were you able to get any info?
There really isn't much info on it. It's gone through a couple cycles of different iterations of what is here.
Mm-hmm.
So there's parts of the house that are 1998 built, but it's the stone that's attracting all of this. It's the stone from the earth here. I mean, really, the whole top of this mountain is granite, and then over time, we've built up 18 inches of sod, of earth and grass over the top of it naturally, but it really is just stone. So when I look at the history of the property, then I start looking at what and who was up here. So what animals were up here, what types of animals were up here, what indigenous tribes were here, and then bringing over Europeans and what does the European history look like over here. And the interesting thing is the more we start delving into European history and the migration of explorers over here, it happened a lot sooner than we think. It wasn't just Christopher Columbus. I mean, we're looking at hundreds of years before that we had people visiting this area and doing who knows what. So looking into that history, I think I'm finding more answers that way than I am in county records.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I have a friend who lives in Placerville, has a bed and breakfast, and
Mm.
she's got like a berm behind her house, and she's got a little creek that runs, around near the berm. But every time it rains, the ground comes down from the berm. Well,
Mhm.
she's finding Native American and Civil War stuff in there.
That's
And like
amazing.
you say, she's got these cabinets where she has all this stuff stored. So like you say, it's true. You can find more being on the land than you can in some of the history stuff to look it up. So
Yeah,
she knows pretty much who and what was on the property and all this.
that is amazing. That's really cool that she's able to find those things
Yeah.
and has them in her house. And I just love history. I really do. I love finding historic artifacts um, and then you're like touching it because those artifacts still have this imprinting, this energy imprinting, and when you hold it, you're like transported back
Yes.
to that time.
Well, I know it's 200 acres, but have you been, on your walks? Have you come across arrowheads or anything like that?
Nope, red salamanders. I found a couple of red salamanders.
Really?
I really haven't I haven't explored too much into the woods. There was one little hike I took, and I actually found remnants of a lean-to of somebody living on the property before. I don't know how long ago it was because it's definitely older.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I haven't, because when I first got here, I broke my leg like almost immediately.
Right.
So I really am still kind of healing and saying, okay, can I go hike in the woods now? And and things like that. So I'm exploring more and more of the land as time goes on.
And are there any like old roads to cruise
Mhm.
around on out there, or is it just old stuff you have to hike?
Most of it's you have to hike. There's old logging roads.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting thing about Vermont is it was basically clear cut like 100 years ago, the whole entire state, because they were going to use it for agriculture. And then the westward trek, going west, the Oregon Trail, basically, started moving people out of this area and saying, oh, there's better land over there. It's flatter. We can, grow more over there in
Mm-hmm.
some areas. And so they just let the state of Vermont reseed itself, basically. And so now we have like all these, we have a lot of pine, and not a pine, we have a lot of maple, so we can make maple syrup. But so the woods aren't, they like coming from Oregon and coming out here, it feels like very young scrub woods.
Okay.
Like it's the trees are still kind of smaller and there's a lot of undergrowth. So you need to bushwhack going through some of these areas. Um, and then there's a couple logging trails, logging roads that are still in there that I can kind of follow those a little
Mm-hmm.
bit to see where those went, but
Interesting.
bushwhacking mainly.
Here's a question now. Do you still do psychic work from home?
I do sometimes. I really do study consciousness, and I study how consciousness continues
Mm-hmm.
and how consciousness actually feeds our body now, and how we can communicate then and have all these after death communications. I also study past lives or alternate life experiences
Mm-hmm.
and how we can remember those memories. Um, and primarily using quantum theoretics to show how it works on the scientific side. So we can take the esoteric and we can take the scientific and put them together and
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, this is how it's working, at least from our vantage point. So I do that. And sometimes periodically I open up time frames for people to come in if they want to talk to me individually. I do that as well. So on my website, sometimes you get lucky and find a spot. But if you really do need to get a hold of me, you can always email me and I'll do my best to fit you in.
Well, my question with all this in connection, when you're doing your work, do the resident ghosts try to come through? Because obviously you're more open.
Mm. Yeah, I don't usually, like if I'm doing my work, I'm not looking to connect with, or I don't need to connect with another entity in order to get the reading. I just go consciousness to consciousness and I get a full reading that way. And then I teach the person that I'm working with how they can do it themselves too without having to go through a third party.
Okay, that's what I'm worrying.
Sorry.
Wondering because I mean, see what I mean? Hello, because they're always. I mean, even though we don't see them, they are always there. So I would think they'd be thinking she's opening it up now. Now I can get into her head. We can have a chat.
Yeah. No, I think I'm always open to a chat with them. And so it's not just as the reading. They know to be quiet while I'm giving a reading.
That's cool.
Unless there's, and it's not them, unless like the other day I was talking to this mother and it was her son that wanted to let her know that he was hearing her and that agreeing. So he was a participant in the conversation.
That's cool. Do you now out of all the ones you've seen in your house or heard in your house, do you have a particular favorite? Because I'm sure you do.
I like the, I'll call them the women ones, the ones with the disembodied voices, um, because they seem to be more active, and I like that. So it does. It's a kind of a comforting feeling to know that they're there, and that on the windy, super stormy nights, I know I'm not completely alone.
And plus, like you say, it's like they're walking around checking out the house, so it's nice to know they approve of the house and
Yeah,
what you're doing to the house, or else you'd be having problems.
exactly. I guess so. The interesting thing is in the kitchen that one night, it's actually a space that I was going to be removing shelving and some cabinetry, and it was just like they were. Now that you say this, they were probably just helping me, saying, "Yep, get rid of this," and they're trying to push everything off the shelves, saying, "I'll help you demolition this spot."
Well, there's a lot of stories, like with haunted hotels, even up here in the Gold Country, where they have put wallpaper up, to redecorate the rooms, and they come back and all the wallpaper's torn off
Yeah,
because
that happens.
the inhabitants, the dead inhabitants did not like the wallpaper. So you've lucked out. I mean, that's because
Hmm.
you haven't had any issues like that, have you? Where you've done something or painted something and then something's wrong with it.
Yeah. Well, it did happen in my house in Big Sur. So, and it was my son. And there's this bathroom light that I put up, and I was like, "Oh, what do you think of this one?" And this light, there's no way the glass was going to break. This light was not coming down. It was never going to heat up enough because it's an LED strip, not even a light bulb. And I leave the room and I'm upstairs doing some work. I think I was writing one of the books. And all of a sudden I just hear smash, and I go down there and this light fixture exploded. I was like, well, I guess you don't like that. But so I switched the light fixture, but it was just an LED strip. There was nothing there to break this glass, and it's tempered glass, so it shouldn't have shattered, but I'm telling you, this glass shattered all over.
Sometimes you never know. All right, you said that you work with chocolate. Tell me about your work with chocolate.
Yeah, so I make chocolate. I make it from the bean. So I sometimes I make confections, but basically it's chocolate. And I have found that if you were to want to do divination type deals, or you really want to connect spiritually, or you just want to connect into your intuition, the chocolate is one of the most amazing conduits to do this, because aside from all the wonderful benefits that chocolate has, it's also what's called a vasodilator. And when you get really great, high quality chocolate, you can actually just put it in your mouth. And I usually make it as a paste, so I don't normally eat it. I make it as a paste. and you put it in your mouth, and it actually starts opening up your body, opening up your brain. And so all of a sudden you are more receptive to different frequencies around you, and you're more receptive to your own frequencies around you as well. So there's a ton of benefits that come with chocolate. It stimulates your brain, it stimulates your body, and it helps create conduction
See
for
that, you
what it
guys?
is you want to do.
My regular listeners, because I have a tendency to eat a chocolate bar or something before I do the show, they all make fun of me. See, it has this thing's going on.
You, young lady, were supposed to give me a mailing address because I do have a chocolate packet for you.
Oh, I will then.
Did you ignore those emails? I know I sent it to you
I
twice.
don't remember
Send me your mailing address.
Don't tell me that. I get so many emails. I'm sorry.
I know, it's okay. So for real, give me your address because I do have some for you.
Oh, that sounds cool. Thank you. You know what? When I'm dead and gone, you
Yeah.
want to get my attention?
Yeah.
Just make a chocolate cream pie or a German chocolate cake, and that'll bring me across from the other side really easy.
You are a woman after my own heart.
And
Where have you been? All my life. It's so easy to talk to you. You love chocolate.
I'm a chocolate person. I always have been. My mother was too. She's the first thing was a diabetic though. I remember growing up, and now they have that. What's that stuff? Nutella now. That it's all. Well, my mother, before there was Nutella, there was Duncan Hines frosting. Remember?
Oh my gosh.
And my mother, to entertain, I don't know if it was to entertain me or what, but she would make sandwiches with Duncan Hines frosting, 2 pieces of bread, just like people do with Nutella now. And
Wow.
slap the frosting in there, and I would eat that. And they always had a frozen chocolate cream pie, so I would go out there after school and sit out back and just.
Oh my gosh.
It's amazing I'm not diabetic.
That's like a dream life.
It's all about
I do. But I will say chocolate on bread is great. And so I make this chocolate paste that I'll give you and put it on your bread, and it is the best thing.
See?
It is so freaking good. There's something about bread and chocolate, even
sweet.
cheese and chocolate, even
You're
steak
too
and
sweet,
chocolate.
literally too sweet. So what got you into doing things with chocolate? Even though it wasn't the mystic, what was the like you say the mystical part of it, or you just enjoy working with it?
Yeah, well, it was actually when I was very, very young. So when I was probably 3 years old, I had my very first taste of chocolate. And when I had that experience with chocolate, it actually opened up the realms I was already living in even more. And that first taste of chocolate stayed with me for the rest of my life. And it was something that I really wanted to explore, to say, okay, why is this working this way? And why is the gift of chocolate different than going to buy a Hershey's bar?
Right.
Why are some different than others?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started delving into the physiological benefits of chocolate, and still missing, the real secret behind chocolate. Why was chocolate considered the food of the gods? Why was chocolate traded with a value far greater than gold? Because that wasn't the chocolate confection. That wasn't anything like that. It was just the cocoa beans ground up into a paste. What made that so special? And so I spent years and years and years working on that and uncovering a lot of these mysteries. And when I make my chocolate now, I really do put a lot of that energy into the chocolate, because that's what I want people to experience. So I don't make chocolate year round. It's only in the fall and the winter because I need to be able to mail it.
Right.
And it's not really ever going to be a commercial commodity. When I've had people say, hey, you need to commercialize this, you need to bring, and I'm like, no, it's got to stay this way. It's got to stay small and handmade and distributed that way, because the second I think I commercialize it or I try to mass produce it, I think it's going to end up losing some of these properties that I have worked so hard to garner into it.
I was just thinking when you were talking about how different chocolate has a different taste to it. I was in Europe for a while, And yeah, I mean, I remember getting those Swiss chocolate bars.
Oh,
Oh my God, the European ones. Oh, heaven. Toblerone is another one. Toblerone would find holes in your teeth you didn't know you had.
yeah,
It just melts and just goes everywhere. But I
yeah,
mean, you can tell the taste. I mean, I hate to say it, love Hershey's and all that, but it's like plastic.
yeah,
It's like plastic.
totally.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. And European chocolate really, the interesting thing is in the United States, you only have to have a certain percentage of cacao, so the dark chocolate mass
Hmm.
in the product to call it chocolate. In Europe, you have to have the cocoa butter and the cocoa mass in order to call it chocolate. And so that is a huge difference because in the United States, you can put a different oil rather than using the cocoa butter into the bar and call it chocolate. And that's, you don't want to mess with that. You want the real deal. You want the cocoa butter and the cocoa mass.
That's what I love the most about you. I always loved the little ladies when we got like I was only like 7 or 8, right? Even back then I knew. And you go to these houses with these little old ladies, and they're squeezing my cheeks. I always knew what was coming. I thought there's a chocolate bar. There's a chocolate bar for this. I hate the sugar candy. I'm gonna get a chocolate bar. And I would. And there would always be something for Switzerland. I'd be like, yes. You know,
Yeah, okay, I can handle this
yeah,
today.
I'm squeezing. Just give me my damn chocolate bar. I
Yes.
would have done, I would have done great at Wonka. I always think of the chocolate river, Willy Wonka, right?
Mm.
Heaven, absolute heaven. Just pour me
Oh
in the
yeah.
river. I'll just sit there all day with a cup and just pour it in.
I
The other
just
thing,
wanted to stay in that room.
oh my God, yes, isn't that great? With the edible like lollipops growing on the ground.
Oh, and the buttercups, and when Willy Wonka takes a bite of that, I don't know why he and how he made that bite look so freaking good,
Oh
but
my God,
my mouth waters thinking about it.
everybody needs a chocolate room. I always do a
Everybody.
display out in front of my front yard for Christmas. I always want to do that to
Yes.
recreate the gummy bears hanging out of the tree and all this.
That's a fabulous idea. If you ever need a helper, I'll come help you.
Sounds good to me. I've always got written plans for it, but I never get around to doing it because I never have enough time. But I'm just dying to do something like that, like the red licorice hanging from the tree,
Oh
and
my
snap it
gosh.
off and all that.
That would be amazing. You'll have to go to Costco and just get the red vine tub and go hang it up and say, "Okay, kids, there's your trick or treat."
It's all about red vines. Maren, it's always fun to talk to you. It's always a joy.
Yeah, I love talking to you. Thank you so much for including me on these things. It's absolutely
Absolutely,
wonderful.
absolutely. And we'll get you back on again at some point too.
Exactly.
You
Oh,
know?
I
Yes,
was going to say,
yes.
if you or anybody else, I'm trying to get enough people together to play this game called Ghost Court on October 30th. And it's basically a game where the living is suing the dead or the dead is suing the living. And it's just really fun. So if anybody has a good sense of humor and they want to participate in it, I could
Okay,
really use a couple plaintiffs and defendants.
okay. I can do that. Yeah, we can do that. We can fix that.
Yeah, good.
You hear that, listeners? Maren's a nice lady. It'll be fun.
It will be. It will be. And who
Yeah.
knows? You could win some chocolate. How's that? We'll ride
Oh,
it
yeah.
home. There we
I gotta
go.
send you my address too.
Yes, please do because I do have a package ready for you.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I do.
Yes.
But thank
Well,
you as
good.
always for coming on to visit.
Yes. Well, thank you very much for having me. And I will start gathering some more stories for you.
Cool.
And hopefully we'll get together and again in a few months.
I mean, well, all right, Maren. Well, you have a good one.
Okay. All right. Bye bye.
Okay, bye. Button. There's a button. All right. That's always fun to talk with Maren Muter. I think this is her third time on with us. I mean, we always have a blast when we talk. Before the show ends, I'll go ahead and run her contact information to show you the book she's written too. In fact, there's a book on chocolate of all those things. I wonder why that is. But anyway, I want to thank you guys for coming tonight. Tomorrow night, of course, is Friday, Casual Friday. We're going to have our Aloha shirts on. Nancy Matz will be here. We're going to be talking about ghosts and manifestation and all kinds of stuff. You know how that goes. We go off the rails on that. It could take an hour, 2 hours. Who the hell knows? But we'll be together tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. the usual time. And I appreciate everybody that came in. That's not our usual viewers, that are Meridian viewers. I really appreciate you guys. And if you like the show, please, please, please follow. Over on Facebook, you can follow us. Again, over YouTube, there's that little ghost down in the bottom right-hand corner with the magnifying glass on. The Sherlock Holmes hat, the magnifying glass on. Oh my God. With the magnifying glass in his hand and the Sherlock Holmes hat on. And that's how you would subscribe to our videos. And like I said, there's 450 videos there with different topics. Anyway, if you like the show, share it with 5 people. If you despise the show, share it with 5 of your enemies. We are equal opportunity here. We're just looking for followers. That's what we want, is to build up our following. Even check me out. Check out my Instagram site. Not check me out. Check out my Instagram site. That's Ghosty Gal on Instagram. That's where I hang out on Instagram. And TikTok, we are California Haunts, all lowercase. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And you see that little ticker running along the bottom, and that's because California Haunts kind of works as a nonprofit, even though we aren't a status nonprofit. But I own the company, so what happens is if something blows up, like a microphone blows up, if a computer blows up, if lighting blows up, or even equipment we use out in the field blow up or something breaks, it comes out of my pocket. So I always need extra cash for that kind of thing to do that, and I work as a freelance journalist now. So if you could help me out a little bit, that'd be great. Plus, the expenses to run the show and everything, and keep guests like Maren coming on. I really appreciate the help, and believe me, it's much needed. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for coming on. You can do that at paypal.me at California Haunts, or Venmo, and just type in California Haunts over there. Okay? Anyway, I want you guys to have a good evening. I will see you tomorrow at 6:30 p.m. Pacific. Have a great one. And here is the information. Website, MarenMuter.com. And the book is Inside Past Life Connections. And the other book is the Book of Buried Letters. The book's available at Amazon and also on her website. And like I said, her other books that she's written about chocolate and all that kind of thing are on her website, so if you want to check those out. Anyway, I will see you guys tomorrow, 6:30 p.m. Have a good evening.